welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Connie. I'm an addict. And of course, I've compared myself to every other person who spoke. And I'm not the same. So that's good. But we have a lot in common. First of all, I'd like to thank the convention committee and everybody in Indianapolis. I was singing before I got Indiana wants me. So, but yeah, you guys were so gracious. You know, I got here and Gerald picked me up at the airport, and then Kim and Dan came to the room. They gave me a basket that had fruit in it, and you know, I mean, hey, I felt like a queen. So, and I am a queen. You know, so I don't know how to start, except for, you know what, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I came to Narcotics Anonymous, but not too much. My story's not a lot different than anyone else. You know, I really loved Ron sharing last night because, you know, I'm like that. You know, I always say that, you know, I didn't come from I'm not a trust fund baby. You know, I came from a welfare mother. And, you know, I had 4 siblings, and my mother, you know, she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. In fact, she was my hero for many years. She passed away in 2001. And, you know, I was able to stay clean through that, thank God. She did the best job she could. She really did. You know, she had 5 kids, and I actually got a call this week from a sister that I have who's a half-sister, who I never met till she was 18, but I knew she existed. And my father had my mother and this other woman, and then my father had well, the other woman got pregnant. My mother was pregnant with my youngest brother, and I have a half-sister who's just a little bit older than my youngest brother, so that's what got my mom to, and I used to always say, you know, Dad left us. Well, you know, Dad didn't leave us, Mom threw Dad out. So, you know, the longer I stay clean, the more honest I become. But really, a lot of that has to do with the more is revealed to me. You know, it's not that I consciously lied all the time, it's just that the more is revealed to me. So, you know, I realized that, you know, from just writing and, you know, sort of doing a lot of work. Because what I've found out about my father, you know, who I have a relationship with today, is that, you know, I have hooked up with him all of my life in every man I've gone out with. And he was my original abandoner. You know, I mean, yes, my mother threw him out, but no, I didn't hear from him again until I was 14. So, you know, it told me that I wasn't enough. And, he came upon so I have this sister. I want to finish telling you about the sister because she called me last week and I don't know her very well. And, I was at her wedding. I might have met her one other time, and I think I've talked to her on the phone maybe a couple of times. So I don't really know her. I know of her. And, you know, she, I believe also suffers from this disease. I'm not positive, but I have a pretty good idea. And I got a phone call, just like last week. And I hadn't heard from her in years. Last I heard, she went to my brother's wedding, and she was about 250 pounds. According to my family, she's 90 pounds. And she has no place to go. And, so I said, come to my house. I didn't know what else. She asked me. And I said, what are you asking me first? I said, what are you asking me? And she said, that she wanted to get her life together and get a job and, you know, and she's had all this stuff happen to her. because she's a victim, like I was. And, and so now she had never said she was an addict. But, and I said, look, because I've been clean a while and I've gotten to the point in my recovery where I say what I feel. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid of the consequences as much as I was when I got here. And so, I said, I've been talking to other family members and, I know that you have a history of, using alcohol and drugs and whatnot. So if you want to come here, I have one rule. You have to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. She never told me she was an addict. And I said, I don't care if you admit you're an addict. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're coming living in my house, you have to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Because I can't fix her. But I'm hoping the magic of this program, nobody could fix me when I came here, but it was the magic of the program that fixed me. And so, I said, you don't have to admit that you're an addict. I said, all you have to do is have a desire not to use. I didn't even say stop using because I didn't want her to go, well, I'm not using. Because that's what we do. So, she's coming tomorrow night. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I told her, I said, look, I don't know you from Adam. You don't know me. So I can't promise you can stay for a long time because I don't know how we're going to get along. But, I do know 3 people that own halfway houses. So, you don't have to worry about getting, kicked to the curb. So, now back to my father. My dad left because my mom asked him to, and, he had these 2 pregnant women. One was my mother, and then he had this other one, and then, he was gonna move us to, Wyoming, 2 towns 20 miles apart. I mean, I swear to God, there's something about that guy I just love because I've been dating him all my life. So anyways, he moved. He, before we had a chance to move, everybody had their suitcases packed. My mom found out about the girlfriend because some mix-up with the doctor's office, sending the bill to the wrong place with the wrong name. And my mom packed us all up and moved us to Arizona. And so I never saw my dad again until I was 14. And, well, a lot of things happened in that time, between then and when I was 14. But we'll skip that. But what happened when I was 14 is, we lived in my uncle, his brother's house, because he was owning up and working somewhere, and we were renting his house, and everybody in our family sort of helped my mom out because she had all these kids. And we were living in his brother's house, and along comes my dad to the door. I answer the door, and he asked for his brother because he doesn't know who I am. And then my mother comes walking up behind me, and he asked for his brother because he didn't recognize her either. And so my mom goes, Arthur. And then he realized, and it was like, oh my God, what did I do? So, he didn't plan on coming to visit us when we were 14 years old. He just ended up there accidentally. And so, the next thing that happened is he asked us all what we wanted, and I said, my brother wanted a bow and arrow, and I don't remember what everybody else had, but I know what I wanted, and I wanted go-go boots. You remember the white some of you don't remember the white go-go boots, but I remember the white go-go boots. And I was like, oh, I gotta have them, So, he promised me the go-go boots. And I swear to God, I finally got them. They were out of style by then, it was like, then by the time that time came, go-go boots, you wore go-go boots. Everybody was like, oh yeah, she got them at the welfare. So, but I always say that's how I, sort of identify that is I'm still waiting for my go-go boots. From every man I have ever hooked up with in my entire life, I have still been waiting for my go-go boots. So, a lot of shoes, but no go-go boots. So anyway, we'll move on from that. And, that's kind of what my life was like. And I left home at a really young age, and the reason that I left was because I felt like I was in the way. You know, my mom, she did the very best that she could, but she was absolutely overwhelmed. She was going to school at night to be a court reporter and working during the day and had 5 kids and no money. And, she did a really good job. We ate dinner every night. We ate 3 meals a day. We never had anything in between, cookies, snacks, none of that. We got the food boxes from the welfare with the cheese and the milk that you couldn't get to dissolve no matter what you did. So, and that's how we grew up. And so, I left home because I felt like I was a bother. And because we were all a bother. My mom wasn't really cut out to be a mother. But back then, they didn't know that. They just had babies and did the best they could. And I love my mother. I've always had a lot of abandonment issues and not enough. I've never felt like I was enough. Ever. And I don't think it's just me. I think this whole, human population suffers. And I really do believe the reason we're here is so that we can understand that we are enough. And that's all we're all here for, is to learn that. Self-acceptance. And so, I left home and, I did all the things that, you're not supposed to do, and I promised myself I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't cross this line, and I wouldn't cross that line, and I crossed every line I ever said I wouldn't cross. And I was an addict. I think I was an addict way before I ever used. I think my first addiction was fantasy. And, it's like that. I've been an addict all my life. I just never knew that there was anything you could do about it. So, and I want to give you some short synopsis of my using. When I was 14, I got busted for a roach. When I was 16, I got busted for an ounce. When I was 17, I got busted for 370 pounds. I never did any time because I was underage and my mom worked for the juvenile court system, so I was lucky. And so when I was 18, I was sick. It was my 18th birthday. They told me I had to be sick so I could get on methadone. I was in Boulder, Colorado. It was morning of my 18th birthday. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was in line in front of the methadone clinic to get my first legal dose of methadone. I lost all the veins in my arms before I was an adult. And how I used to use was any way I could. I wasn't a big fat dealer. I wasn't I didn't have anything, going for me. I was just an addict and a survivor. And so I used everything that I could whenever I could. I always tried to stop my drug of choice, and the way I would clean up would be I would move. I'd take the geographical cure. And I lived all over this country. I lived in New Orleans. I lived in Key West. I lived in Boulder, Colorado. I lived in St. Louis, Missouri. I lived in New Mexico. I lived in California. I lived in Arizona. That's what I did. I relocated. I took the geographical cure because I never heard of Narcotics Anonymous. I don't think I ever even heard of Alcoholics Anonymous back then. I did later, but not very much before I got clean. I just wasn't in that world. That wasn't my world. And so, and I had a daughter by accident when I was 20. And so I got pregnant when I was 19, and I had this daughter when I was 20. And she saved my life. Because, I couldn't use as hard when I had her. I had to be a mother. I kicked a habit 2 weeks before she was born so she wouldn't be born addicted. So, I could have gone to jail for that today. It's not the same today as it was then, So, and so this daughter helped me. So I was telling somebody today because I thought about that. I went to this, so I just had this baby, right? I went to my mother's house because that's where I always went if I had to do something, and, I had the baby. And so then I figured I better find somebody, a husband. I gotta have a family now. So I went to the bar in town. And it was a cowboy a Western bar. This was in the 70s, and the cowboy thing was really happening, so I went to the cowboy bar. And I hooked up with this guy in the cowboy bar, where they're all rednecks and cowboys. And who do I pick? The heroin addict. In the cowboy bar, you know. I don't know how I found him. It's like I'm a magnet, you know. So I hooked up with him, you know, and we proceeded to have, you know, 3 blissful years of abuse and insanity. And I married him. And I stood there in front of this judge who was a friend of mine today and was my mother's judge, and I said, inside of my mind, I said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I do. And I think it's because I knew I'd get my ass kicked if I didn't. And that was the way that I lived, you know, I'm a survivor. And so then I went on to, I finally left him, you know, that was a scene, the police, I'm not even going to go there, it was long, it was horrible, you know, they pulled guns because he pulled guns, and my daughter, my 3-year-old, was in the middle, and it was just horrible. And I ran from that man for many years. And so, you know, that was my first one. I don't know that he abandoned me, but he definitely wasn't there for me, emotionally. Somehow he was like my dad. I gotta figure that one out. I better do some more writing. Anyway, so, then, you know, I just kind of continued to use, and that's what I did. I cleaned up, I used, I cleaned up, I used. Thank God I got a career in that, and I'm a goldsmith, diamond jeweler, and that's what I do. That's what I've been doing for 33 years. My daughter's 33 years old now. And, you know, she grew up in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. She was 9 when I got clean. You know, and I ran with her a lot. But she kept me alive because I had to leave sooner. You know what I mean? I think I would have died if I didn't have her. Because, you know, I would have ran sooner and killed myself, because that's how I used. I used until I was in oblivion. And, it's because I couldn't take my life. I couldn't take my life. I couldn't take my thinking, my heart, my soul. You know, I was always in pain. And so, at the end of my using, I, was in, California, and I was a jeweler I was a jeweler, and then I started using again. And so then I moved closer to the connection. I still had my job, and then I quit my job because I couldn't work and do dope. And so then I started turning tricks on the street, called The Stroll in Oxnard, California. And I was turning tricks there, and then I got picked up by the grace of God. And it really was by the grace of God. I mean it, I knew it too. I said, wow, I can rest. And so they pulled me into this holding cell, and they drew, I had just used, and first of all, the cop pulled me up on the side, and he said, looked at my arms, and because I hadn't been able to use my arms for so long, they look good, you know, and so then he looked at my hands right here, and they look good, and then he made me go like this and look at the back of my arms, and they didn't look so good. And so, they took me to this holding cell, and they drew circles and arrows, and, they drew circles and arrows, and they took pictures, and it was, you know, humiliating. You know what was humiliating is the degradation. And, you know, I didn't know that word very well. I knew what degrading was, but, you know, when the basic text says degradation, I didn't know it, but I knew it. Because I knew what it felt like. They drew circles and arrows, and you know why I felt so degraded was because there was still blood streaming down my arm where I got off the last time. I didn't even have it together to wipe off my arm. You know, and that's degrading. So, you know, I went to jail, and I was ready to get out of jail, and there was 3 of us, and we were all going to go get loaded. We had a plan. And somehow, and that was like another miracle for me, God intervened, and I was able to leave first. They released me before, and I walked straight out to the highway and stuck my thumb out and hitchhiked to my sister's house. past the town where I lived, and she took me, and I said, I can't go there by myself. I need to get my truck. I need to get all my stuff. And the stuff equaled a bunch of boxes full of crap because I went into the apartment. It was a condo. I went in. There was, they had a yard sale while I was in jail. And, sold everything I owned. I lived alone, by the way. They weren't my roommates. So, they had a yard sale. And, I gathered the electricity had been turned off. There was an eviction notice on the door. And, I had to go in the dark and pull out anything I had and throw it in the, back of this truck, that somebody else had stolen, and I had to go retrieve off the stroll. And so, I took the truck and I came to Arizona and I put 13 quarts of oil for 350 miles and just kept pouring oil in it. That's the truck, and I still owed money on that truck. So I came to Arizona and, I was gonna, get clean. I went to stay with my dad. We didn't even know each other, but I went to stay with my dad and he was a Christian. And so he took me to a group and we sat in a circle and everybody talked about their problems, and it came my turn and I said, I'm a heroin addict and I don't know how to stop. And they said, oh. So they walked me into this little room out of the circle. And, they started calling numbers. And one of the numbers, it was a treatment program. And I said, yeah, I'll do your program. And, I'll go to your little meetings. Little meetings, all arrogant myself, I'll go to your little meetings. I'll, sleep there because I really was homeless. And, I'll sleep there, but I have to work. I definitely have to work. I gotta get on with my life and I need to work. And so, I said, okay, they said, no, I'm sorry, I don't think our program's really cut out for you. And so I said, okay. And they gave me Narcotics Anonymous. And when I called Narcotics Anonymous, this guy answered the phone. And I grew up in Phoenix and I hadn't been back to Phoenix since I left. And I was a freshman in high school when I left. And, I grew up there and I hadn't been back. And so this guy answers the phone and I went to high school with him and started using with him. And he remembered me. Well, that was a miracle. That was like a huge God thing. I think that I think my whole life is a bunch of miracles. That's all it is. I don't think, that anything has happened in my life that God hasn't had a hand in. So, I just, and that was it. I found Narcotics Anonymous. I didn't stay clean right away. I used within a couple of weeks. I found this nice guy in N.A. We were both new, and he had a Harley, and I had a black Harley Davidson T-shirt. So it was a match made in hell. So anyways, we hooked up. And I rode on the back of his bike and we went to meetings and it was great, The beginning of my recovery was fun. And then I was living in a room. I moved 7 times in my first 30 days clean. I was homeless. Really, I stayed in a rooming house. I stayed in a hotel. I stayed in somebody else's house. They didn't want me to stay very long, obviously. And nobody really wanted me when I came here. They didn't want me. And that's sad today when I think about that. So I'm really careful when I meet newcomers in Narcotics Anonymous. Because I cannot forget where I came from. And that's why I keep going back to meetings. More than anything. Because the minute I forget where I came from, I am going to go back. And I'm sure of it. So anyways, this guy was going to use, so somebody stole the TV out of one guy in the rooming house's room, and then this other guy, he had the needles because he was a heroin addict, and then this other guy, I don't know, there were all these people in this rooming house, and they were all Pretty strange. Anyway, so, the guy, and then I came home from work at my job, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Anyways, and I came home from work, and, the guy was my boyfriend. So I get in, and they said, Pat left with this guy. And then so-and-so's TV's gone, and I know so-and-so took it. And I was like, and he was a junkie. And I was like, God damn it, they're gonna make Pat use. Yeah. I was really angry that they were going to make Pat use. How dare they? And, they went to go cop. And I was so angry that I went to these other people in the rooming house who were potheads, and I said, give me a joint. And they said, no, you're clean. And I said, give me a joint. And they gave it to me. So I smoked this joint. And, I had a reservation about marijuana. Because I didn't see, I was willing not to smoke it because it was in the rules. But I didn't really think that it was that big of a deal. But when I smoked that joint, to get rid of those feelings of anger, I could not wait to get that feeling out of me. It was like I just kept waiting and breathing and laying and trying to get it out of me. I had a taste of being clean. And I got a taste of complete, total abstinence. And it was really, really something, so it helped me. I don't think there's any mistakes in this program. And another time happened, and I'll tell you about my job. I got a job as a jeweler in the back of a flower shop with this guy's who's a jeweler. It was his wife. They were divorced, and she let him put a little showcase in there and a jeweler's bench and all that. And so he gave me a job, and it was pretty much a dump. And I went to work there, and I just couldn't handle it. I felt so small. I felt so unimportant. I felt so less than. One day I just had a panic attack and left because I didn't feel good enough to be there. And then I got a job in a strip club as a cocktail waitress on roller skates. In recovery. And I fit in there. I felt like I fit in there. So, and I also got loaded there. So that was my first 17 of, and you know what? I'll tell you the truth, and I'll be really honest with you. I'm not sure which happened first. I don't know if I got loaded in there first or if I smoked the weed first. Because I don't know. But, I couldn't get back to a meeting for a long time after that. I was so scared. I was sure you guys didn't want me there anymore. I was sure I'd failed you. I was sure that, you guys could do something that I couldn't and that I let you down. And I was full of shame. And it was really hard. And so thank God for that guy, Pat. Oh, by the way, he didn't use. He got pulled over in front of the Connections house. He didn't use, but I did. But guess what? He didn't stay clean and I did. So, anyways, but I think that everybody comes through our life for a reason. I don't ever tell anybody don't do this and don't do that. Because guess what? We're all going to learn how we're going to learn. And you know what? Pat saved my ass because he got me back to a meeting. It took me, a good couple of weeks before I'd go back. I had to pick my clean date. I picked it because I knew I'd been clean on my daughter's birthday, and the next day was the 1st of August, or 2 days later. And so I chose the 1st of August as my clean day because I didn't want to lie and I didn't want to cheat about my clean day because I wanted to stick, and it's still here. I stuck with it, so it's a good thing I didn't lie. So then starts my recovery. And that was, it's been quite the journey. And I did every single thing wrong. I was listening to that, understanding traditions come slowly over a period of time. We talk with others and, all of that. And I'm thinking, when are they going to say, first of all, we violate every single tradition? And that's how we learn them. I did everything wrong in this program. I don't know about you guys, but every single lesson I learned, I did not learn because you told me. I had to do it myself. Every single lesson. And someday they're going to hopefully slow down a little, those lessons. But anyways, so that was August 1st of 1984. And I'm still clean. I got one sponsor, then I got another sponsor. The first sponsor I got had a boyfriend with a Harley. The second sponsor I got is my best friend today. And, we've been best friends for 23 years. And, we talk to each other every single day. And we have walked through everything in this program. Breast cancer, death of parents, both of ours. We have each lost a parent. We've gone through the death of her husband. We've gone through her daughter's birth. We've gone through my daughter getting picked up. We've gone through her daughter getting picked up. We've gone through her daughter's graduation from high school and just this year induction into college. All right. And words are not worthy to describe that relationship. But when she was my sponsor in the beginning, I was afraid of her. Because she had 5 years, 5.5 years, or something like that. She was just under 6 years, I think. And I was like, oh my God, she's fabulous. She's perfect. She has this and she has that, and I have nothing, and I'm not enough. And I was not enough. And so I was afraid. And I couldn't read my 4th step to her. I couldn't do a 5th step with her because I was afraid of myself. I was afraid that she would judge me, but it wasn't her that was going to judge me. It was me that was going to judge me. And that's how we come here. We come here full of fear and shame. I was so full of shame when I came here. I was an unfit mother. That little girl sat at home while I went to the bar, and she'd call the bar. And about the 8th or 9th time she'd call the bar, her mother'd come home. And that was the life that I lived. And it took a lot to be able to get over that. It took a lot to be able to forgive myself. Because I was an unfit mother. But I did just like my mother. I did the best I could. And my daughter's not an addict. Which is a miracle. Yeah. She's amazing. She's 33 years old and she's amazing. So I don't know what happened, but evidently I'm not an unfit mother anymore. And the women in this program taught me how to be a mother to my daughter. And some of the men. I can remember when my daughter got picked up and went to juvenile hall, how afraid I was. And how scared. And then I called my friend Daniel at 3 o'clock in the morning and he talked to me. And that I had to go pick her up, and it was a nightmare. So anyways, I got another sponsor. Because if you can't work with your sponsor, I don't care how wonderful she is, you need to get somebody you can work with. Because it's all about the work here. And I didn't just work because everybody told me to work. I didn't work the steps because I was having a beautiful day. I worked the steps because I was miserable and scared and petrified. And my behavior backed me into a corner, and I didn't know any other way out except for to work the steps or get loaded. And, so I worked the steps. And that's how I've always worked them. And I've worked them a lot. Because I've gotten myself into a lot of trick bags here. I had I've had a wonderful, wonderful road to recovery. It has been amazing and fabulous. And I have the most wonderful people in my life today. My second sponsor was blind. And she was blind from the time she was 5 years old and had rheumatoid arthritis. And she was beautiful. And she never judged me. And she loved me no matter what I said, and that's what I needed. And her name was Robin, and she died in 1994. And because her body couldn't take the drugs anymore, they gave her cortisone and this and that, and her organs broke down, and she died. So I was without a sponsor. And in 1984, I had 10 years clean. And I had already had the perfect wedding in N.A. I had the beautiful wedding. I chaired 2 of our conventions. I represented our region at the World Service Conference, and my life was just fabulous. So I had an affair. I left my husband and he didn't leave his wife. And it went on for a long time. Too long. Way too long. But just long enough, to get Connie busy again. And you know what? I have to say, as horrible and awful as that whole thing was, I was in an altered state, by the way. I was clean, but I was in an altered state. I could so relate last night when Ron was talking about stalking and, going to jail and, because I was clean, but I was using. And he was my drug of choice. So, I went through 10 years of that. And it was awful. And it was wonderful. And it was highs and lows and highs and lows. But the nature of the relationship was that I wasn't enough. One more time. No more. Everything it said was I wasn't enough. No matter what. But, as horrible as it was the greatest gift because, I was talking to my friend today and I said, I feel good. Last night and we're doing this meter thing and she's going, well, when you spoke in Montreal, you were just over the top of that. And that's another relationship. We met in the World Service Conference and Francine was from Montreal and we connected. And I don't know, it must have been at least 17 years ago. I can't get the math right. We've known each other for that long and we have that kind of feeling and relationship. And we both fell in love at the same time and we were crazy. And we were both high. But we were clean. And you know what? Thank God for my sponsor. After my sponsor died, I was in the middle of this insanity. I was 40 years old, 10 years clean, and just having an affair, and I left my husband, and I had a friend from the in my area, and she became my sponsor. I asked her to sponsor me. And I said, I need you to sponsor me. I'm having an affair. And she said, that's wonderful. And if you're new around here, you might not understand what that means. But I guess it was the thing that I really needed to shake me to the core. Because that's what it did. It shook me to my very core. And, it was the catalyst to what I am today. So everything that happens to us is a gift. There is no bad in recovery. Nothing. We think it's bad. It feels horrible. We feel like we're going to die inside. But my sponsor worked with me. We worked the steps through that relationship. I don't know. It's a fog to me, a lot of it. But I did work the steps with her. And I kept in close contact with her. And I kept in close contact with Francine. And I kept in close contact with my best friend. And they had a workshop yesterday, complacency or contentment. And I thought about that, complacency or contentment. Because there was a time during that I didn't go to meetings. Because I had my drug of choice. And so, two of my friends came and the workbook had just come out and they brought it to me and they said, here, you want to work the workbook? I know, we got you a present. And they gave me the workbook. And I forgot all about that. It was my sponsor and my girlfriend. And I didn't even remember it. And even my sponsor hadn't worked the workbook yet. But they knew I needed it. So anyway, I finally left. And, it was horrible. And I thought I was going to die, and I ran away. I went to California. And I had left a lot of times, believe me. I left a lot of times. Once I left and went to Francine's in Montreal and stayed there for 3 months. I couldn't run away anymore. I'm a runaway. First thought in my head is, okay, where am I going to go? I've got a business, I've got a job, I've got a house, I've got a life, and I just can't run away anymore. It's not like that, but that's what my mind wants to do. So anyways, the end of the relationship, it finally happened. And, I left and I was in pain. And it was jails, institutions, or death all over again. You know, it's like suicide, homicide, you know, or a nut house. Because I was ready to die. And, anyways, so I left him, and, my women friends gathered around me, and they carried me until I could carry myself. And I went to my friend Martha, who's another gift in this program. We met at our first, when I had a 1 year clean at the San Diego Regional Convention, and I met her, and I went to her house in California, and Francine, that's how God works for me. I swear, Francine's in California from Montreal. I'm in crisis, and I've got another 4 women around me that I know and I love and that love me and that can nurture me. And that's how my God works here. And so, I went to the California, and I started to type on my laptop because I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't drive, I could not do anything. And so I just started to type, you know, and I started to write my story, so to speak, you know, and whatever. And then my girlfriend was working a step out of the workbook, and I said, could I use your workbook? And I started working the steps in the workbook. I called my sponsor. She said I could email them to her because we had a disc. I mean, no, we didn't have a disc, so I typed out the name. That was before the disc. Typed out all the words in the step, and I started to do it, and I sent it to my sponsor. And I said, I'm ready. I got to do number 2 now. And she said, go ahead. And I just kept doing that because I had to do something. I was going to die. It wasn't about using for me. It was about dying. You know, and because I knew by then using wasn't an option. See, I absolutely knew that. So anyways, I got through that. You know, and it took a lot of work and a lot of pain, and I went into a retreat for a week that was at a treatment program that was just like treatment, but it was a retreat. And they gave us everything they give in the $30,000 program. I had never been to treatment. I walked into Narcotics Anonymous off the phone line. You know, so I had never had any of that intense stuff. So anyways, I went to that treatment program, and I went through that, and I got a lot better. But I didn't get better overnight. You know, and I don't know what made me better. I can't tell anybody what made me better, but I was willing to go to any lengths to stay clean. I went to meetings. I read the first couple of meetings. I read the 12 Traditions of Narcotics Anonymous at a meeting out loud, and I cried all the way through the 12 traditions. You know, I cried. They are not sad. So, anyways, I started to work on myself because one more time I was backed in a corner, and that's when I work, is when I'm falling apart. And so, you know, I started seeking spiritual help. And I tried everything. I did. I tried everything. And everything worked. You know, that's what's so cool, because it's really hard to get spirituality when you don't belong to a religion.
Yeah.
There's nothing really in a book there for you. You kind of have to take a whole bunch of books and a whole bunch of different ideas. And, you know, I had tried different religions and nothing really fit for me, so I had to come up with a spiritual connection that wasn't in a religion, so I really had to work hard. And I needed to learn how to do things like how to stop my mind at night. You know, if you're new in this program, you know how your mind talks to you and you want to use? And you're doing everything you can, but your mind's just going and going and going. Well, that's what mine was doing. I wanted to drive by. I wanted to call. I wanted to use. You know, and so I had to learn exercises, and one of the exercises that I learned is I inhaled, I started reading about meditation, and I started to breathe in God. Every time I breathe in, I thought God. My whole thought was God. And when I exhaled, I used love. And so with breathing, I didn't say it out loud, it was my whole thought that would just, you know, take over my whole body, was God and love. And you know what? It stopped my mind from going, and I could fall asleep. So it helped me. And, you know, I've had to work really hard. And another thing that I did is I started working with newcomers. My best friend says the best way out of here, of my self-centered, self-obsessed, selfish self is to help somebody else. And it really is, and I was like this, I can't even think about that right now. I can't even think about that right now, And so, and that's how it was. I got up every day, I put my pants on one leg at a time, and I showed up for life the best that I could, and I tried to forgive myself. Because, when I went to that little program, I found out I had to forgive my original abandoner. I needed to forgive myself, because that's who I'm really angry at. I should know better. Don't you think I should know better? And I just could not believe that I would let myself get put into a position like that. And it was just really hard for me. So I've really had to work hard on knowing that I'm okay. Self-acceptance. Self-acceptance. That's what it's all about. It's all about accepting ourselves, like Ron said last night. If we can accept ourselves, we can accept you. And I gotta learn how to accept myself. And I still work on it. This is just not a destination. It's totally a journey here. And every time I get somewhere, I find somewhere else I want to be. But it's not the same as it was, like I'm over here and I want to be over there. I love being exactly where I am right now today. I am, and that, I was thinking about all this, it's like when Dan called me, oh, you be the spiritual speaker, and I was like, spiritual? Oh. And I started to joke with my friends, I'm going to get a turban, and I'm going to get some Buddha beads, and I'm going to get some Birkenstocks, and I'm going to, and I got to, quit smoking, and But we had so much fun last night, and we're all playing the dancing game at the table, and we're just having a great old time and living it up and not worrying about what anybody thinks, and that's spirituality. Spirituality is contentment and happiness. It's about being right here where you are right now and not wanting to be anywhere else. And I still find times that I find myself uncomfortable with myself, but it's just little tiny stuff. Like sometimes I'll find myself sitting in my chair at home and my legs will be all twisted up. And my hands will be sort of gripped. And I'll go, oh, I don't like doing that. That's not spiritual. I want to learn how to relax, you know what I mean? And just, so it's always a little bit more. But it's not a bad more. It's just more. It's just, it's just more benefits. And it's like, it's so hard for me to believe that I am who I am today. And I love it. And it's been 3.5 years and I haven't hooked up with anybody. I've had a lot of possible BFs, I call them. But I'm very careful today because I don't want to hurt anybody else and I don't want to hurt myself. And I had one guy I liked a little bit, and then all of a sudden I found myself, he was just taking my whole consciousness. And I was like, and now he wasn't taking it, I was giving it to him. And I know that. I'm not a victim, I'm a volunteer, I give it up. So, when I saw myself becoming so overwhelmed with another human being again and making me him. I know how to do that. You're a truck driver? I'm a truck driver. I can do anything you can do, and I can do it better. Not only can I do it better, but I can do it for you. And that's what I'm afraid of. So, I have to learn how to do things. And, I'm scared to death to take those kind of risks today. But it's okay, because guess what? I'm really learning how to be happy with me. And I'm truly, truly happy today. I have another thing that I do. I have 2 other things that I do that I want to talk about because I'm passionate about them. And everybody makes fun of me in my little chat room. But we opened a chat room, NA chat room online where we help people. And they pour in. Sometimes we get 10, 15 addicts a day looking for help because they all think they can get clean on the internet. Don't you think that's a great idea? You don't ever have to leave your room. Just get in there and, hey, the internet's great, you can get just about anything on the internet. Why not get clean? But it's our job, our duty, and our responsibility to share our experience, strength, and hope, so we send them to meetings. We tell them that the real miracle's in the rooms, where the real tears are and the real hugs are. But it's been such a great gift, because first of all, they come in there and we can't see them. So they're anonymous.
Yes.
No prejudgment.
Right.
All we see is their words. And what we do is we help them. We share our experience. And I just love that. It saved my life. Because there was times I couldn't leave my house. And so I go to a lot of meetings, still. And I carry the message of Narcotics Anonymous. The other passion of mine is Mexico. And, they say you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And they're so hungry for Narcotics Anonymous in Mexico. And, back in the day when I was a teenage heroin addict, I used to cross the border, which is only 60 miles from our house, and buy my heroin and take it back across the border. And that's how I supported my habit, because I'd carry it for other people, and some for me and some for them. And then that's how I supported and today I crossed the border and I carried literature to the other side of the border. And I don't speak Spanish. But you know what? This is a fellowship of the heart. And I've never had to speak Spanish to carry literature over there. And I go to Mexico a lot, and Susie's area, D.C., donated $350 worth of literature, Spanish basic text, and I brought them over to Mexico. I sell stuff whenever I get it, and to donate money to Mexico. I donate my own money to Mexico. I raise funds for Mexico, and I have a sponsee in Mexico. And she's the only woman in her fellowship. And her husband's a using addict. She doesn't speak very much English. But you know what? We work together really nicely. So you know what? I'm so grateful for Narcotics Anonymous. It's made me the woman I am today. I'm a success, by the way. You notice I didn't talk about finances. But you know what? I got all that stuff. But when you get to the bottom, the very, very, very bottom, and you're on your knees and you don't know where to go and you got all that stuff around you, it does not save you. It's the members in these rooms that have carried me when I could not carry myself. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. NAPOD is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to napod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.